In truth, there is no such thing as a Democrat or Republican who is strong on the economy. They have both been working together to throw a monkey wrench into America's economy for decades, and claiming they will be the ones to fix it. Don't believe me? Well, let's see. To get to the bottom of this, I will be making a top 10 of ways corrupt politicians hurt our economy. I know some candidates are better than others, but at the end of the day, they go along with big stuff that hurts us. The vast majority will be actively involved in most or all of the following. If you find a candidate who doesn't, let me know in the comments below, and I'll reach out. Alright, let's start. Monopolies. Would you allow giant monopolies in nearly every sector of the American economy and let them charge high prices for low quality services and goods if you wanted the economy to be strong? I think not. This is why roads are so expensive. Bridges take decades to complete, and health insurance is unaffordable for many Americans. Basic infrastructure in the 21st century like Wi-Fi is so slow and even behind many developing nations to which I've been. It is even illegal to compete in some of the industries due to sweetheart laws passed by corrupt politicians over the decades. Like, why can't Americans buy a new car from the manufacturer where they could get a good deal? It's because car dealers are primary donors to politicians. They make up a huge amount of local budgets. Let's break them up, these monopolies, and create a giant windfall of opportunities for enterprising Americans with a dream and an idea to take a shot. Contractors and consultants, aka the swamp. Would you, as the largest employer in America, borrow untold billions in federal, state, and city debt and outsource it to a tiny group of companies they call government contractors, both in no bid and bid conditions, both of which always end up favoring the same people with a horrible track record for achieving results and even finishing anything? Probably not. How much of our national debt is based on bogus hours and unfinished projects? We'll never know. It's not their money, it's the people's money. So who cares? Would you also be related to most of the companies by blood, marriage, or long-term business partnerships? Is that how you'd make the American economy stronger? By the biggest employer favoring a tiny few? Audits. Would you let major government agencies that cannot pass an audit spend trillions for decades with no real oversight? Anyone who's ever worked for money would never let this stand, corrupt or not. But they do, because they don't work like us. Profiting from a pandemic or disaster. Public sector edition. Would you give a huge portion of money during a pandemic to you and your friends and let ordinary citizens and their small businesses die in unprecedented numbers? To that point, would you open up a fund for small businesses and then reclassify giant corporations as small businesses so they can claim those funds before normal businesses can ever reach them or even read the application? Insider trading. Would you become extraordinarily wealthy on top of your generous salary as a politician by participating in insider trading, using your job to manipulate the stock market, then bet on companies with that information ahead of anyone in America except perhaps your donors? Would you make sure this big crime gets nothing more than a symbolic slap on the wrist? Government inflation. Would you keep printing money which causes inflation, which primarily hurts the poor and middle class, who have their small savings in cash, not equity or investments? This amounts to a tax on the poor by hiding it in math, making every dollar worth less for the average American. Corporate inflation. Would you stop companies from taking their already jacked up monopoly prices even higher during any time of struggle by price fixing and increasing their profit margins? This is illegal in most states, but never enforced by politicians, who are paid by the one doing the price fixing. This is so rampant that businesses are reporting record profits, record profit margins during a pandemic, basically bragging about ripping people off illegally, as the margins should be the same unless they increased it too much. Automation/immigration. Would you work with your donors to make the majority of American workers obsolete and permanently unemployed? Those you don't unemploy allow a giant illegal undermarket of jobs paid way below the minimum federal wage and state wages. They talk and talk, but they never make any progress on immigration or automation and saving jobs. Why? Because the people who pay them want illegally cheap labor. Politicians who are against immigration are for automation. Politicians who are against automation are for immigration. The Democrats and Republicans, respectively. Both have the same effect. They greatly impact Americans' wages. And neither alone can solve anything, so that's why they always pick one. So they can help their corporations while appearing to fight something that helps everyday Americans, while making no meaningful impact. If you wanted the economy to be healthy, would you have a system where every candidate for either the Republican or Democratic Party accept large campaign contributions from corporations via super PACs with no meaningful financial restrictions? How can we pretend that they are for the economy when they are paid and actively rigging it for their donors? Rigged elections. The final cherry on top. Would you, if you're trying to make America stronger, healthier, and more robust economy, would you make it impossible to make change or to fix the economy by making it much, much harder for third-party candidates, independents, and unaffiliated candidates to run for office, purely to protect your corruption, to make sure the economy stays in a nosedive in any meaningful metric for the average American? Who am I? I'm a brand new federal candidate, unaffiliated, unbribed, and untethered to any party. The Democrats in my state recently rigged the elections, so my district changed, and I have to collect 5,000 votes just to get on the ballot. Democrats and Republicans to run for office don't have to do anything. They just put down their name and pay a tiny fee. And boom, the next day they're up and running, and reporters are calling them because they're on the list. I can't get on the list for months and months and months at a time, and I need to talk to hundreds of thousands of people to get the 1 in 20, 1 in 15 who will put their name and address down for a new person they've never heard of. Even if you're the most eloquent person in the world, that would be challenging, which is why they set that 5,000. Otherwise, you would actually be in the running, you'd be getting reporters, and you'd actually get a lot of votes by the time the general election rolled around. So this is a way of cutting off your feet before you can even start your campaign. Most of these people, they won and started their career by winning their primaries with less than 5,000 votes. Democratic strongholds, you always win the general if you win the primary. And most of these are strongholds around here, which means they know that they're requiring more from me just to register than it does to start their career. That's the standard they want. On independence, on the unaffiliated, on the uncorrupt.